When I was asked to present Fred Blau with the Vanguard Award, I was so excited. I mean, I thought I knew everything about Fred because I've worked with him so much, and I was unaware that I missed some of the coolest things about him. I found out that Fred started out as an actor and a stuntman. Who knew, right? But Fred dated Annette Funicello when she was in the 50s, when she was still a Mouseketeer. I know a lot of you don't even know who that is or what those are, but that's okay. Anyway, in fact, my social media girl found this really cute picture of Fred and Annette with mouse ears on, and I printed it out, and oh, shit, I think I left it in the car. Oh, well, never mind. So anyway, sorry, I'm not as funny as Jason Alexander, and I don't have as many Oscars as Rick Baker, but I'm going to do my best. So anyway, so back in the day, makeup artists used to have to do an apprenticeship. They had to work at the studios for 3 years as an apprentice. And Fred started in 1964 at Warner Brothers. Well, while Fred was still an apprentice, in 1966, he got offered to go on the set of Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf and help out with Elizabeth Taylor's makeup. Well, Christ almighty, that's amazing, right? Then his first job out of apprenticeship was to go on location with Paul Newman on Cool Hand Luke. Well, those are two of the bitchinest jobs I've ever heard of right out of the gate, right? Well, later on that same year, he and Mike Hancock went on to a film called The Illustrated Man with Rod Steiger. And Fred developed some inks for the project because they had to do all these tattoos, right? So cut to 41 years later, Fred went on another film filled with tattoos, and the name of the film was Tattoo. And at that point, he developed Real Creations Ink and tattoo transfers. Yes, an amazing accomplishment. He started it all right? So check this out. For 14 years, they used those inks on Sports Illustrated magazines when they were doing the swimsuit editions, because what they would do with them is they would paint swimsuits on the girls and sports logos on naked models. So needless to say, those were the most popular issues of the magazine, I would imagine. So what I want to know is, Fred, did you do those ads? Just asking. Must have been fun, right? But anyway, so Fred has worked on countless of television shows and films. I mean, so many I couldn't even name them all, like Armageddon, Blade, The Grinch, Planet of the Apes. But there was one really standout film that Fred did. It was a little film in 1979 directed by Francis Ford Coppola, and it was called Apocalypse Now. Well, amazing, right? So I've only heard the crazy stories about that movie. I mean, I wasn't actually doing anything really big back then. So Fred lived at that film for a year in the Philippines. And actual fact, he and his wife Nancy made over 400 gallons of blood for that film in their kitchen. I love that story. Anyway, Fred could do any type of makeup that a makeup artist could be called for, from prosthetics to beauty. In fact, he was Kate Jackson's makeup artist for 13 years after he met her on Charlie's Angels. So, yes, pretty great to stay with an actress that long. I personally hired Fred whenever I could, but he was always busy. But you know what? He was never too busy, to share his knowledge or his, advice with other artists. And I always felt that that was really an amazing talent to do. So Fred has been a member of our local 706 for 55 years. He is a member of the Motion Picture Academy. He's a member of the Television Academy, and he was nominated for a BAFTA for the film Addams Family Values, and an Emmy for Steven Spielberg's Amazing Stories, as well as 5 other Emmy nominations. So let's see some of the highlights of the amazing career of Mr. Fred Blau, please.
I started out as an extra, and then I went into stunts, and then I went into acting and all that. And for some reason, I don't know what it was, I just kept hanging around the makeup people. All of a sudden, as an apprentice in my first year, they assigned me to a movie called Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, in which I did Sandy Dennis and George Segal, which was quite an honor at the time. I passed my apprenticeship, and then George Blau comes to me and he says, "Go pack your bags, you're going up to Stockton." That turned out to be Cool Hand Luke.
I'm a soldier.
They called me up to go to the Philippines and do Apocalypse Now.
You're an errand boy.
Next thing I know, I'm doing Kate Jackson on Charlie's Angels. I've had a wonderful and amazing journey. Thank you so much for this honor. And I'm among so many wonderful peers. I can't even believe that I'm with you wonderful folks here. This is just such an honor, and I can't thank you enough. I really mean that from my heart.
I am honored and proud to call Fred Blau my friend and colleague, and I am thrilled to present the Makeup Artists and Hairstylists Guild Vanguard Award to makeup industry titan, Mr. Fred Blau. Howdy, Buck.
Howdy, Buck. Thank you. Oh, this is amazing. I really want to start off by thanking Local 706 and all my peers for this incredible coveted award. I'm really touched. As I came here tonight, one of my peers jokingly asked me, "Hey, do you take drugs?" And I said, "Never. At my age, I don't need to take drugs. All I have to do is stand up fast." But anyhow, as I came here tonight, I think I just missed the cue here. But anyhow, I want to thank God for allowing me to wake up every morning and still walk on the grass. It's amazing. My career in the motion picture business and the television business began in 1952 when I was asked to do a little extra work on a movie called Loving You, starring Elvis Presley. I was an actor and an extra and stuntman for the next 10 years plus, and then I was fortunate enough to receive an apprenticeship from the department head, Gordon Blau, at Warner Brothers Studio. And during my apprenticeship, I think V already mentioned it, I was asked by Gordon to do Elizabeth Taylor's makeup for her screen tests. Yeah, that was kind of a trip. I'd never met anybody as elegant as her. We did it for Virginia Woolf, and her regular makeup artist was unavailable at the time. And then I was assigned to do George Siegel and Sandy Dennis on the show. When I completed my apprenticeship in, I think it was 66, I was hired to work with Robert Blau, Gordon Bau's nephew, on a movie called Cool Hand Luke. It was quite a start in the industry when the ink wasn't even dry on my 706 card. I was there when Struther said, "What we have here is a failure to communicate." Later on, I was invited to do Apocalypse Now for Francis Ford Coppola, which just blew me away. And what was supposed to be a 4-month job in the Philippines turned out to be 12 months over a period of 15 with 2 hiatuses. My bride, Nancy, she was making all that blood on the kitchen table and shipping it over to the Philippines. And one day the Philippine constabulary came out to the airplane, and they had all their guns ready and everything because blood was dripping out of the door. Well, one of the cases tipped over, and you know the rest. After that, I was hired to do Kate Jackson's makeup on Charlie's Angels. My dear friend, the late Mel Burns, invited me, and I was with her for over 13 years. It was something I'll never forget. Now, my main mentors in the industry were the late George Blau, who was Gordon Bau's brother, Dick Smith, who I have so much respect for, and we worked personally together. When I was even an apprentice, he came every year to meet with George Blau to learn, and they would lock themselves in George's makeup room, and they would go to work, and he would be learning from George because George has some of the most incredible rubber that was ever designed, and he did it all himself out of a book. And then the late John Chambers and Dan Strepak, who had so much faith in me and really gave me, all these people are responsible for my success. Then we have Rick Baker. Thank you, Rick. He invited me to do the close-up double, the stunt double for The Grinch. And that was just one of the most amazing trips I've ever had. Tommy Berman, again, we've heard his name. He and I were best friends for decades, and we worked together. And in 1980, I started a company called Real Creations. And my former business partner, the late Mike Hancock, and we formulated we already had the blood, and he was responsible for inventing real body art inks. And in 2021, I came to the point where it was time to retire, so I sold Real Creations, and I sold the Real Creations to Paul and John Esper of Friends Beauty Supply. And their company is called Missing Elements, and they can be found at Friends, and I keep the formulas. I'm in touch with them at all times so we can keep the integrity of all the formulas that they're selling and producing right now to keep it the same. You know, my wife of 60 years, Nancy, she's the one that made all that blood. And my daughter, Tracy, was my right-hand lady, whom I could never have run Real Creations without her help. And all my kids and my grandkids, they all worked there. During my 70 years in the industry, not as a makeup artist, but in the industry, I was able to accrue over 95,000 hours, and of which I am now the beneficiary. The Motion Picture Television Fund, Local 706, and the IATSE were my benefactors. You know, I have to... These things come to my mind as I'm speaking, and they're not scripted, but Steve Laporte, we worked together several times, and I know him before he was a clown, after he was a clown, but I got to thinking, how many of you makeup artists out there could do 10 clowns without any research. That's something. Steve can. And anyhow, I wanted to let you know how much I'm benefiting from the biggest payoff in the industry with the motion picture, television, and IATSE. The only thing I can say is, if you want to get those hours, you have to work union. Primary. The non-union shows don't give you those hours. Just remember that. And the more you accrue, the more you're going to benefit. Thank you very much.